Pretty remarkable, really. I mean, over a number of years, I've talked about there always been a record in transfer spending, but to see the levels this summer, I guess, is slightly unexpected. If we'd gone back to the start of the summer, I don't think many of us would have predicted it to this level. But I think there's a number of factors really that have driven this. I think as we've come out of the COVID-19 pandemic, clubs have got a little bit more security. We've just entered a new broadcast cycle, which means that certainly those clubs who will play in the Premier League through that time period know exactly what they're going to be generating. We've got fans back in the stadiums, which has come with a timely boost and provides more kind of available cash to clubs. And then we've got a wave of new owners as well. And of course, what we've seen at Chelsea has really driven forward the market. And I guess you've got to look at these things in the sense that it creates a little bit of a domino effect. So as one club in the Premier League spends, then another will do as well. And halfway through the window, we actually thought that it was the spending in the Premier League itself that was really driving the step change, but actually it's broadly across the piece, and so it really does mark a point of record really, and where Premier League clubs are looking to acquire the best talent. I think it's really interesting. I was listening about Nottingham Forest just this week, and the fact that this time last year I think they were pretty much bottom of the Championship after quite a poor start to the league, and within the Championship itself, the difficult financial position of many of the clubs means that a lot of the squads are made up of players that are on loan agreements or players that maybe have shorter term contracts than the Premier League clubs. And so with Nottingham Forest having that later run and being promoted through the playoffs, that gives them less time anyway in the transfer window. But they clearly believe that the best way to try and safeguard their future and safeguard future income is to spend heavily in the transfer market and acquire a squad of players that has the potential to keep them in the Premier League. But of course, that comes with significant risk, gelling a squad at short notice, as everybody will talk about, but also then the financial liability that creates through the contracted period, albeit they have done short-term deals for a number of players. So perhaps for them it will work. The Premier League itself now, the transfer window's almost become a competition. And you look at social media, the way that it's reported, the kind of rolling news channels constantly looking at who's in and who's out, and the fan demands really for new talent and to see the best possible players playing at their clubs. There's also a point in time issue here as well, or factor, post European Super League, certain situations at different clubs, new owners, new managers, maybe that certain point in their squad development at Arsenal, for example, where they've had to bring in new talent. The move towards doing transfers at the start of the window is very much a club by club strategy, really. Some prefer to operate at that end of the window because they believe that that's where the best value is to be found. Whereas when we get into these last few days, it's often quite hectic and challenging to acquire the players that you want. Yeah, absolutely, and that tallies with the fact that they had an equity injection from one of their shareholders, so money came into the business specifically, I imagine, here in this situation to fund those transfers. I think Tottenham are in a really positive position because of their new stadium development. So the new stadium came into action just before COVID, and post COVID now, Tottenham may feel they have the opportunity, with the increased revenue from the stadium, the shareholder injection, to really cement their position in that top four. And we've always seen Premier League clubs roughly spending a similar proportion of their revenue on transfers, but for the first time, going over $1 billion at the net level really is a marker of how critical transfers and acquiring playing talent is to the business models, in particular of those at the top end of the Premier League.